So he was assigned like several different female officers that were kind of new to like be in the car with him, but there was one particular one that was like pretty regular. So I was like, okay, if you're in the car 10 to 12 hours, you're gonna build a relationship with this person. Hello, I'm Kristen, and in today's video, I'm gonna be talking all about how to deal with your police husband or when you're dating a cop and they have a female partner that maybe makes you a little uncomfortable. I've got 3 juicy stories for you guys that we have dealt with personally. I am been married to Rick for 9 years. We're from Los Angeles, and I'm so excited to bring you this video. It's a very hot topic. Whenever I talk about jealousy on my Instagram, those videos do really well because I've heard they are relatable, and this is a common challenge, and this was a requested video topic, so I'm happy to bring it to you today. I talked about this in a previous video that I will link below, just a half of the video. It was like the second half, so this video will be fully on this topic. Let's get started. So the first example that I have was actually that Rick and I had dated for 10 years before getting married, and we had dated on and off. So we weren't together solid that 10 years. Like, we were together the first couple years. We both had moved at different times. I had moved a few times. Rick had moved from Vegas to LA. We had met in Vegas. And so we were also like in college and at grad school and like all this kind of stuff. Rick was starting his career out here. So there were times when we would break up for like a solid year even. And during one of those times, Rick had dated a fellow officer. I didn't know she was a fellow officer until this incident that I'm going to tell you about happened. But when he dated her, she had to have brain or like head surgery or something crazy like that. Like, she had a tumor. It wasn't cancerous, but they had to remove it, and I guess like it caused a lot of issues. And then financially she had to take time off work. Her car broke down, so Rick helped her get a new car. This is the kind of provider that he is. He helped her get a new car, and then we get back together, and I find out, like, he explains all of it to me. I think a huge thing about dating a cop who might be in the car for 12 hours a day and or is just around other like attractive, strong women, right, that are like in law enforcement, usually they're in shape and all that, is like transparency and trust, right? So in order for your officer to earn that trust, they have to be transparent, tell you about things. And Rick and I are both super careful about communicating if we're going to be alone with the person of the opposite sex for whatever reason, if it's work, other things. And that's what the video was about, was like him working undercover. So if you are interested in this topic of like dealing with your officer who's working with a female partner, what about going undercover in a strip club? And Rick has done that work, and I talk about that in that video, so I'll leave that for that. So to continue the story of this woman, we get back together, and he tells me like, hey, I was dating this other woman, helped her get a car, my name is on it, and she pays me every month. Like, she direct deposited money, or she gave him money somehow, and for the payment for the car, but the car is under his name. And I was like, well, that was really nice of you. Okay. The car happened to be a Mini Cooper, which was like my favorite car at the time. So I was like, what? Do I get a Mini Cooper too? Just kidding. Okay, but I'm pretty sure I did say that. So, so we are together for a while. I think this was like our final time of getting back together, and then we got engaged, and we are about to get married. We had been long distance, and I was back in California visiting him, staying with him like right before the wedding, and he finds out somebody paid something from his bank account for like a bill, and it was her. So it was this ex that like she never came up in conversation. She paid him every month. They didn't communicate. And she pays a bill from his account. So I assume like she got his routing and account number because she was like direct depositing money. Well, that creates like issues for their department now because she works there still, and like that is fraud, right? And like all this bad stuff. And Rick has to talk to her and be like, hey, so I tell him, we decide, I would say, well, you need to get the car back. And then I told him, like, you need to tell me if you're going to talk to her. I understand you have to talk to her and like deal with this, but tell me when you're going to talk to her just so that I know. And like, I was definitely annoyed. And then to get the car back, he didn't even see her. He had her drop the car off at a dealership where it was gonna get like serviced and cleaned, and then he was just gonna pick it up. And that's exactly what happened. It got like a deep clean and we ended up having the car. Long story short, I ended up driving that car until it died, and I drove it a ton back and forth to Vegas for work for like a year while I was pregnant. Craziness. But I was all about deep cleaning it. I grew up in Hawaii, and Rick always says, like, I have this weird like thing about things, and I think that they have like an aura around them. I know that's not very Christian. It's like the Hawaiian in me, Rick always says, but and so I needed it to be like cleaned of her aura, and I felt like it was, and I made it my own. Long story short. Okay, so I feel like throughout that you can see how we communicated about the issues. And of course, I forgot this. I had found out during that time when she like used his account to pay for bills, which that was our account too that we shared, that she worked for the department. I didn't know, he never had mentioned that before, so I was like, are you serious? But their department is 10,000 officers, so they weren't working together in the same like area at all, and so I was okay with that, but I would have rather had known that information before. So I think the most important thing is communication, also just patience and understanding on our side. I think that this next story will be more relatable to like if your husband or you're dating a cop that is out there working the field and has a partner for like the 10 to 12 hour shift that is a female. That is something that would be more common for you to deal with. And so Rick has 16 years on. He probably had around 15 years on during this time when he was working as a police officer. And so as you get more time on, you become more senior. He is not a formal like training officer, anything like that. But during this time, around that 15-year mark, people started calling him sir, and then his supervisors would put like the newbies with him in the car. So he had, there's a lot more female officers than I ever expected, by the way. In this particular unit he was working, there were so many officers that were female, and I was impressed. I think they're amazing. In this video, I want you to know that I respect female officers so much, and I'm so thankful for them because we need them right out there as well. And I wouldn't want to do that kind of work. I feel like I'm too tiny and not brave enough. So they are so brave because some of them are small and not huge or anything like that. Okay, so anyway, so he was assigned like several different female officers that were kind of new to like be in the car with him. But there was one particular one that was like pretty regular. So I was like, okay, if you're in the car 10 to 12 hours, you're going to build a relationship with this person. He did say that he was really hard on her because like tough love kind of thing, because she was small and he wanted her to be, he needed her to like get in there, be brave and be really involved. Because she was small, she was going to take more hate from perpetrators or people out in the field. So he was really hard on her, and I was like, I kind of felt bad for her, honestly. But one thing that I did that he didn't know about until later is like, I kind of asked about her, like, tell me about her, like, how old is she? What does she look like her ethnicity? Like, I was just kind of curious to get to know this person. I kind of learned just through him talking a little bit at a time that like he didn't respect her as an officer because she was so new, right? Like he didn't have that respect yet, like that she was amazing in the field. And I do feel like that's something like if she was cute, young, attractive, strong, like mentally strong, and like he respected her in the field, like I would probably be more jealous. So that kind of helped me feel like he kind of saw her as more like younger and not like attractive in that way. And so that kind of helped me. But like I did ask questions and he answered, and I think he was like respectful to not be annoyed that I was asking the questions. But he didn't know until later when I was telling him about it that like I did ask questions to get to know a little bit more about her, to kind of assess my jealousy, I would say. And I do feel like that's okay to ask questions, and also for them to really set boundaries, and he did have boundaries. And I have never been concerned about Rick with boundaries around women, because he's always kind of told me like, okay, I'm working with the female partner today. He's told me, and they don't like hang out alone outside of work or anything like that. They just go to work, they do their thing, and they come home. And so I felt like that would always make me feel better. But this next example is an example of a time when he was going to spend time with a woman from work in a time outside of work. And so I want to share that with you and kind of how it went, so that hopefully it will help you if you're kind of struggling with, or your officer is struggling with boundaries and how to communicate to you, like what's appropriate, what's not. Everyone's going to be different, but I just want to know if he's going to be alone with a female. I want to know, whether it be work, outside of work, whatever. So there was, right after I think we had Maverick, there was someone that wanted to give Maverick a gift, like a baby gift, and she wanted to meet Rick like outside of work to drop it off because Rick was on paternity leave, and that was super sweet of her. She lived like an hour and a half away, and they were going to meet in the middle, and he was like, what if I just meet her at like a Starbucks? And I was like, that's fine. So it's like morning or lunchtime, not nighttime, it's not a dinner, it's like a quick little meetup coffee to get the gift and then come home, right? And that was totally fine with me, and I feel like he dealt with that so appropriately. Everybody is different, so you could be watching this and you could be like, oh, my officer has a best friend that's a girl. Cool. If you guys are comfortable with that, it's totally fine. I'm not, and Rick isn't either. Like, he is not comfortable with me hanging out with other men, and I'm fine with that. We prioritize each other and what we're comfortable with, and like we're there for each other, you know? So I hope you'll watch the other video, because I am quite comfortable with Rick doing undercover, even in strip clubs, stuff like that. I just trust him. I think trust is such a big thing that, so even with these other female officers, like I want to know information, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't have married him if I didn't trust him to be loyal to me wherever he is, right? At work or other places. And that's just so huge. Like, just at the core of me, I don't believe he's a cheater. I think both of us are super practical people, and like if we didn't want to be together, we wouldn't be together. We wouldn't be like cheating and doing that thing. No, that's just not a part of us. So I hope that's the same for you, and I hope that you found this helpful. If you did, you may appreciate and like my book that I have 42 police wife devotionals that include real stories from my dating years of 10 years dating Rick on and off, and including going through like probation days, off probation party with him, and going through our married years. We'll be married 10 years this year, which is crazy. So I hope that you enjoy that. And I also send weekly email devotionals out to police wives and girlfriends, and I will link that link below. You'll get them every Friday, and they are a real story of something that's happening. Usually it's pretty quick. It's like, it happened this week. Something happened this week that I thought would help you or be relevant to you as a fellow wife or girlfriend, and a Bible verse and a prayer to kind of learn a lesson from it and reflect on it. So I hope you will sign up for those, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Have a great day.